So, like, probably 5 hours ago, I watched Scream, and I thought it was pretty solid. I really enjoyed it. It was a really good, fun time. However, I do have a few issues with it, though, which I'll get into right now. I think there's some scenes, though, where I feel like it's trying to suspend my disbelief a little bit too much. Like, for example, you see the hospital scene in the trailer, and in that scene, there's almost no one there, which doesn't make sense to me. There's barely anyone there, except for, like, one cop, but overall, there's, like, no one there, and it just doesn't make sense to me why there wouldn't be more people, considering it's a hospital. There's also a scene in the movie where a cop says, all units on this area, and when the X person goes there, there's, like, no cops there for a while, and we don't really see him until later what happens, and it just feels kind of dumb. I would say the biggest problem for me, though, would definitely be the Ghostface killer reveals, because it just kind of fell flat for me. It just, the motivations of the characters, but at least they weren't boring. At least they actually had some presence on screen and weren't just completely boring, but their motivation completely falls flat for me, and I would say that's probably the weakest part of the movie for me. The movie acknowledges toxic fandoms and acknowledges, like, how toxic fandoms are, and I don't know, it just didn't really work for me also. And if you watch the movie, you'll understand what I mean, but a lot of, like, news outlets and people are saying, oh, it talks about toxic fandoms and all this and that, but personally, for me, it didn't land that well. However, I think the negatives don't outweigh the positives, in my opinion. I really like this movie still. Even with those flaws in account, I still really enjoyed the movie, and there's a lot of positives I have to say about it. I liked all the characters, and I like the Legacy characters. I think the Legacy characters were probably my favorite, considering they're the Legacy characters from the original Scream. But I still really enjoyed the new characters, and I think they still added to the movie, even though some of them were kind of just used as cannon fodder at times, which was kind of disappointing, because they're the new cast, and I hoped they'd be more memorable enough. But overall, I liked the new cast. I also really enjoyed the meta commentary and how it talks about a lot of movies, or horror movies specifically, that come out today. Actually, no, it does talk about other properties, but specifically just movies in general that usually, like, make requels, sequels, reboots, remakes, all that stuff. And it makes fun of Star Wars and other properties, and I think it's pretty funny and really well handled on how they drop all this meta commentary. Surprisingly, though, the kills were actually pretty violent. Like, there's a lot of stabs. Like, there's people that were down, and they just kept getting stabbed over and over again until they were dead. And it was pretty violent, kind of made me squeamish at parts, and it was also pretty gory at parts. Overall, I really liked all the kills and the horror aspects and the violence in the movie. I also liked how when some characters encountered Ghostface, they weren't just gonna sit there and take it. They actually, like, looked around, looked for objects, and even looked for things, or actually, like, fought back. Even when they were down, they actually still fought back, which is what I liked, instead of them just sitting there taking it instead of actually doing anything. I think the movie that I could probably compare this to is probably Matrix 4, which came out, like probably 2 months ago, and I feel like they have the same beats. Like, they both talk about meta commentary, they have the same formula as the first movie, they bring back old characters, but the difference is execution, where with this Scream movie, you actually get what you want out of a Scream movie. You get the mystery, you get the horror movie references, you get the kills. But with Matrix 4, you don't get any of what you would want out of a Matrix movie. Like, for example, the martial arts and the fight scenes are pretty forgettable and boring, and just overall very sluggish, not to mention it's over-edited, so you can hardly see what's happening in the action scenes.
Fight back, nigga! Oh, nigga! Boring!
So anyway, this movie was pretty good. Even with its many flaws, I still pretty much enjoyed it. And I'm giving it a 7 out of 10.